Yeah.
I'll argue with the available. I've been doing that for a long
Yeah, but
time.
you come to all these meetings.
Hey, we're gonna call the meeting to order. And I'll stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Which reminds me, there was a great thing on, some idiot did. Amen? Amen. And I'm like, what is that?
We have one check, Kristen Patch, for $482.52. There's one more that goes with that. That should be.
Where's the other sheet?
It's coming, sir.
Can't leave Phyllis out here, you know? All right, mask going down so I can read. The buttercups can suck it up. The buttercups.
Go get 'em.
Eleanor Cherry, 1,013.58. Andrea Bickham, 606.53. Joseph Bird, 923.64. Katie Blazik Ahern, 608.31. Kendra Brackets, 480.06. Gloria Mendia Becerra, 353.75. Karen Clements, 1,064.98. Jeffrey Collins is 652.07. Katie Coppola is $60.03. Keith Culligan is $491.24. Alyssa Sanuski is $377.60. Michael Dame is $733.84. Kiki Donis Wall is $169. Robert Gagnon is $332.56. Joyce Gallant is $166.23. Andrew Gray is $448.79. Alexander Hall is $340.76. Alexander Hadosi is $1,178.34. Kip Kaiser, 773.01. Joyce Kegel is 51714. Kevin Nealand is 86114. Heather Lindsay is 612.24. Robert McCon is 160.56. Brandon Messina is 188.39. Sarah Parkhurst is 395.53. Jeremy Potter is 758.71. Brian Raines is 394.80. Wayne Robinson is 918.04. Stephen Sforza is $975.70. Christopher Spitaleri is $1,343.85. Sophia Streck is $27.70. Charlotte Sullivan is $27.70. Katrina Tennant's $420.60. Josh Turner is $186.05. Olivia Wall is $9653. Daniel Wicks is $1,175.62. Janet Weirs is $76663. Jeremy Worcester is $525.08. Daphne Wass is $687.07. Jared Wright Ward is $627.09.
For a total of $22,440.49.
You had 18 and a half hours overtime at the PD, 3 at the fire department.
You ready? 18's Garage, 224.45. Airgas USA, 67.50. AT&T Mobility, 836.35. Block 5 Technologies, 3,362.50. Boundtree Medical is 949.99. Crystal Rock is 106.28. Emergency Services Marketing Corp. 735. Eversource is 1,515.66. Firematic Supply Company is 146.45. Hartman Oil is 266.96. Health Trust Inc. is 2975822. Impact Fire Services 2610. JP Pest Services 185. Lakes Regional Fire Apparatus Inc. is 84240. Leaf is 261. Morgan's is 190. Municipal Management of New Hampshire is 110. Revision Solar's 2005-1173. Rockingham County Registry is 255. Seacoast Mills, $10.14. Sprint is $10.84. Suburban Propane 591.56. Tri-Tech Software is $1,575. UniFirst Corp is $52.26, Valak is $246.45, WB Mason is $231.58.
For a total of $44,815.97.
No electrics.
Thank you.
Oh, look at that. No rec checks this week. Nice.
Small week?
Money came in from all over the place to get to that 134,000. Some tax money,
Cars.
cars. Planning board paid us some money to reimburse us, whatever. And so we actually set 40,000 aside, but we'll take it all out next week.
Oh.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
You know what's happening next week? Bill's favorite check. Woo! He does cartwheels on that one.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Jim.
Thanks. Building permits. Mark Gagnon, 396 Middle Road. There are two permits for that address, a demo permit and a new shed. Denson Construction, 113 Qualley Falls Road, Unit 3. They're gonna rough and finish plumbing for new dwelling and electrical permit for new home. Scott Buckley, portable, 164 Deer Hill Road. Change 100 amp to 200 amp service for a portable generator. And Jessica and Brian Kennerson, 388 Route 125, a new floor. New one floor build.
I don't know how much demo we've been have to do on that shit. Surprised it hasn't fallen in yet.
I was gonna say,
It's Jane's old house.
yeah, I saw that. Although he's got some, forms, it looks like, already set up out in the back. That shed, I think all he has to do is sneeze at it, right? I could just sneeze at that shed, it might fall over.
And the 388 Route 125, that will have a commercial impact fee associated with it.
Motion for the minutes?
Motion by Bob, second by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor? Bill?
Abstain.
Ken?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Phyllis?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
I don't think we had non-public, do
We did.
we? Motion for non-public?
Second.
Motion and a second. Bill?
Aye.
Ken? Bob?
Aye.
Phyllis?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Heat from the driveway is via Zoom.
Okay. All right. Ron is on via Zoom, so we'll go to Ron Heath from the driveway.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ron. The floor is yours.
That's everybody's.
I'm new to this, I've never been through this process before, but I'm looking for a racing permit for the 2021 racing season.
So do you have any changes from the 2020 schedule besides what didn't happen because of COVID?
No, I think the only change would be there is a Thursday, track for Brentwood special for pure speed racing experience where they give, customers rides down the quarter-mile track in the, drag. But other than that, everything is pretty much spot on for past years.
I think our biggest concern is
Police.
problems with import days and events surrounding that between local law enforcement as well as being covered at the track. I know we had a serious incident last year where we ended up with 2 troops of state police in Brentwood trying to control it. So have you worked with the chief to secure, the 2 chiefs to secure adequate police coverage and stuff for this year?
The 2 chiefs had a meeting. I have not been apprised of what they came up with yet. I believe Joe Lamardo was at that meeting. I work very closely with Joe. He's kind of been my mentor, and I turn to him for advice on everything.
Well, lucky for you, Chief Achery is here. Chief, do you recommend we sign the permit or wait?
We did have a meeting with FPD and we did talk about additional staffing, and just so that Ron's aware of it. We identified several events that we're gonna run similar to the national, event as far as staffing goes, so there will be additional details. Many of them Brentwood, because the traffic concern is in Brentwood. So I believe we're looking at 5 additional details for those events that we identified in Brentwood. And I don't have the schedule in front of me, but we did have that meeting, and just so that Ron is aware that
Can we make
we
copies of
will
that?
be staffing additional details.
Should we make a copy of this for you?
She has the dates, she just doesn't have the dates that they determined
Okay.
with her. Ron, did you hear that okay?
Yeah, I have no problem with additional details, whatever we can do to make everything safe.
So I would accept a motion that we
I'll make
sign
a
the
motion.
permit contingent upon successful negotiations between the police.
Second.
Motion by Ken, second by Bob, and
Before we go, when are you and Epping gonna meet with Ron, so that we get that, all of those details kind of meshed together?
When we
Yeah.
get closer to the April date, we'll have another meeting with FPD as well as additional stakeholders.
Probably be the last week of March before I'm back. Working from home.
it looks like the Nationals is the first problem event anyway, so,
That's July.
yeah, June. There's plenty of time to,
Okay, yeah. I'm
so
good.
the motion and a second, all in favor? Phil,
Aye.
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Phyllis, and I'm gonna abstain. Motion passes, your permit's good, Ron.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Have
welcome,
a good evening.
good evening. So, Chief, do you wanna go now, or do you wanna wait for us to get the rest of the stuff done? Cause you have non-public at the end, right?
Yes.
So, do you wanna just hang out and wait, or do you wanna do stuff now and
We can do stuff now.
do stuff later?
I have a question, because I want to talk about your matrix. Do we do that in non-public or public?
That would be
That
public.
would be public,
That would be
budgeting.
So when you're done, I'll bring it up.
Come on down.
Okay. I mean, I'm good to go.
He's here, there, wherever you wanna go. Your choice.
You can go over there, the speaker's over there.
Okay.
Sorry, we're zigzagging. I figured she had paperwork, so.
Yeah.
Well, we
I-
can bring it,
If I
Bring
need,
that
I
table
feel
over
like
to
I'm
you.
testifying, I need to have my notes with me.
You want that table over there with you?
No.
we can bring the speaker over if you need the table. Do you need a table?
Yeah, I need it.
I'll
Just
get
grab the
it. I
speaker
got
over
it.
there.
It's
There you
right.
go,
Yeah,
yep.
that's a portable speaker, you can take it everywhere.
She's got a ton of paperwork, so.
Okay.
Alright, first we'll start with, everybody saw the,
Matrix.
nope,
No,
the policy
Yes,
change or
yes.
addition.
yes.
I will take a motion on that, because
I'll
if
make
we're
a
gonna
motion.
discuss it, we have to go into non-public, but
I'll second
if there's
Bob's
no
motion.
questions. A motion by Bob, a second by Ken. Any discussion? All in favor, Bill? Ken?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Phyllis?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Chief, I don't know if you saw it, there was an addendum to 105. The Legislative created some new language in that.
Can you be more specific?
There is now requirements of reporting for police, they call it,
Is it a new department?
no, RSA 105, which governs police officers, there's a addendum in there that says you are now required to report to the chief any bad apples,
Mhm.
anything you see, and then the chief's required to notify standards within 10 days.
Okay,
So,
yeah, no, I wasn't aware of that.
I just found it the other day. So,
I'll have to review that.
yeah, it's. All right, what else you got for us, before we get to the matrix?
I think everything else is non-public.
The warrant article?
Yes, the warrant article for
$50,000.
50,000 for the rendering potential architectural. It's just renewing the warrant article that we put forth last year.
Oh, so it's not a non-lapsing warrant article?
No, this is to put $50,000 towards the
50,000 more?
$50,000 more. So we put 50,000 in last year, we're looking to do another 50,000.
What are we gonna do with that money?
That's gonna be used towards potentially for like the architects, stuff like that, but we're reaching out to Norwich and I'm not sure if we're reaching out to Keene again to kind of revisit their plans, to kind of move them forward to the next level. Eric, that's on the,
Yes, so this, just so that you know, and this, I believe we have this posted on our website, but this is the project that Norwich University students created. It's a site plan and a building plan for a proposed
it
police
was free,
department.
didn't cost us
It doesn't
anything.
cost us anything, right?
Nope,
Okay.
didn't cost us anything.
So why do we need another 50,000 if we already got 50,000?
We didn't spend on anything, because eventually you're gonna wanna build a building, it's a capital reserve to go towards that, but eventually we have to take those plans and we're gonna have to go to an architect or an engineer to stamp those plans to make them official.
Will
It
that
can
be
have,
100,000?
And that's gonna cost us 100,000 or?
you're probably looking at, by the time you get a structural engineer to look at them and everything else, you're probably looking at around 30. And then you're also looking at, by the time you have site plan and everything else done too, and then you're gonna have an architect, you're probably looking at probably another 30, 40 in that alone. So, and then any money that's in there is gonna have to go, if there's money left, it would end up going to the expansion, just like we did when we did the fire department. So same thing we did with the fire
Well,
department.
no, we bonded the whole fire department, there was
I
no.
thought we started beforehand now. I thought we did.
This is
some-
gonna have to be a bonded building.
Right, right,
There's no way we're gonna save, it would take us 20 years to save money.
right. But I think what we're trying to do is make sure that we have some funding there to, if we have to get stamp plans and everything else, we have that in place.
So just the town budget is up 6%,
Mhm.
We already got 50,000 there.
and the school budget is up 2.8, so it may not be the year for 50,000.
What are your
Maybe.
recommendations?
Well, maybe if you think you're gonna need 40 and 30, that's 70,
Mhm.
so add another 20, 25.
We'll do, I'll do 25.
Is that a motion?
I'll make a motion for 25. Is that right?
Second.
Something's better than nothing.
Yeah, we just need, I think you're gonna need figures at town meeting
Yeah.
to say, and I'm gonna need figures for the budget hearing, but
Yeah.
present to the budget committee.
I mean, ideally, what we're trying to do is make sure we put some money in there, so when we have to come up with something, we have the money.
I
there.
think we should have plans when we go
Okay.
to the town,
Yep.
instead of being, we could spend this amount of money, but just like when we did the fire department, the good, bad, the ugly, we knew what we were getting into,
Right,
and we knew what it would cost to build.
right.
So, I have a motion for 25, I have a second. Any further discussion on 25,000?
I don't think this is the right time for this, but, yeah,
Okay.
So Bill,
no.
Ken,
Aye.
Bob, Phyllis,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion carries. So, Bill would like to talk about the pay matrix.
Let me ask a question. Is it gonna alter the budget at all?
Maybe, it might go down, it's not gonna change anything, these are the same
Wait a
numbers that
minute.
the chief presented to us.
Is it gonna go down or not?
It depends on what we do here.
So are we making a motion to reopen the budget? Is that what you're doing?
All I wanna do is talk about really what this is about is when and where the officers and the chief's pay matrix that she gave to us, which we agreed to entertain, where they're gonna go.
It was approved in the budget.
I'm not changing those numbers.
So I think the question is, Bill, is,
I'm not changing the numbers, okay?
No, but
the question
We might
is,
save money because of how we
Structure it?
structure it.
so the question is whether
No.
there's,
You have one of those already, I think.
yes, is there is a mood of the board to have this discussion?
I don't feel it's necessary.
Well, I do, because I think.
So are
we
you
need
making a motion
clarification on
to
the
discuss
matrix. I'd like to make a motion to discuss the matrix, it's the chief's matrix.
I'll make a second so you can discuss it.
Okay.
I'll vote yes. Oh,
So,
Well, it's,
what I've given you.
there's a motion and a second, so the discussion part is,
oh, all right.
So what I just gave you is the chief's matrix. What it is this is the matrix for the full-time officers, and really what it is to change when and where, or to discuss when and where the officers that we have on board go. Right now, we have 5 full-time officers and 5 part-time officers, and only 2 have been here over 2 years.
I think the chief needs one, I don't think she has it, I don't.
So basically, most of the officers, full-time officers, are all still probationary.
I'll go make copies for.
my only point to that is,
And all I'm suggesting on this grid is that the officers go on this grid on their anniversary dates.
Wasn't that the original plan, chief?
No, the original
No.
plan was when.
actually, can we stop for a second while Karen's out of the room?
Sarah's not here to take minutes.
That's why I just stopped for a second while you were out of the room. Need some hold music. Anybody want to sing?
Anybody get elevator music?
You want polka? Hold on a second, let's find it. Music.
Oh, what, is this a new one?
That's what the Bill's reviewing.
That was me. With the Twilight Zone without an actual orchestra.
Actually, while we're waiting, and I know you already had a copy of this, but I'm gonna reissue you another one.
That's what we always wanted.
Yes, more stuff.
Killing trees.
Killing trees.
Oh,
Thank you. Have you said where you're going?
Yes.
I don't believe this. Discussing tonight. Yes, you can, absolutely.
More paper?
More paper.
Yeah, this,
Just when I thought it was nice to have you in attendance instead of watching you on Zoom.
I Googled today, there's 67 open police positions. The first 3 I have their pay here. As of today, there is 67 open jobs.
wow.
And that's what competing with. The first 3, I put their salaries down. That will give you an idea of what we're up against out there in the world.
If you give me an extra 30, I'll start. Can I negotiate with them?
Oh, God.
How many people live in Chester?
So almost identical population to what we have here.
I was
So
gonna
the
say
other
Chester.
2, Portsmouth and Exeter, not even close to us. So the only relevant one is Chester, if you wanna talk about that. But
If you wanna just look at that by comparison with population, but if you wanna look at it as far as competing with qualified, certified officers, that's what the matrix is all about.
I don't have a problem with your matrix. I don't have a problem with the numbers you have.
Can we
on your
just keep the
matrix.
conversation in the
Sorry.
audience down, please?
Yep, sorry.
My issue is that when do we put the officer, when do we plug them in, okay? And most of the officers that you have on board are still probationary, so I don't think they should be getting huge raises at the end of the probationary period. I think they can move up gradually on the matrix. The matrix provides 2.5% increases every year, that's automatic. You can change that each year, it doesn't necessarily mean we're locked into that. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, none of us do. But what I'm suggesting is that the officers that we have, who haven't even been here a year, go into the matrix on the thing that I passed out. You'll see it's highlighted in yellow. The lieutenant's the one getting screwed, basically, by pay. But he goes on the matrix in April. I didn't identify the officers, so I think you can probably figure out who they are. The lieutenant and the sergeant, easy to figure out who they are. And the other officers there, 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're going on the matrix to measure it with how long they've been on board. Okay? And I think after the first year, I think this matrix is very helpful to the new chief who's coming on board, so that one less thing for them to worry about. I don't think we want to give huge raises to people that we don't even know if they're gonna stay on board after they're still in their probationary period. It gives the newer, younger officers a boost, it shows their growth, and it'll be a big help to whoever the new chief's gonna be. One other change that I would propose is to increase the matrix by 0.5%. What the matrix shows now is a 2.5% increase per year. What we asked the town to do is be 3%. So if we propose a 0.5% increase next year across the board, the matrix would be 3% across the board for everybody. And then each officer goes on their steps on their anniversary dates.
Andy, can I just?
And that's full-time across the board.
So, just 3 points that I wanna make with the
Yep.
matrix. First of all, the reason why I plan to have it when the budget passes, to get them on the first step in April. And at least the years that I've been here, we've had a 3%, at least a 3% increase in April. So by doing it on their anniversary date, they don't even get an increase, first. Secondly,
Well, that's not true, they do get an increase on their anniversary date. All of them do.
But that could not be for another 6 months.
correct.
Well, they haven't been on board even a year yet, you're gonna give them an increase before they've even been on board a year? I don't think we do that, do we?
Yes.
In the probationary period?
We've
they would be-
always given raises in April. No
So-
matter,
But we usually give them, if somebody gets hired, if I hire somebody in March, I don't automatically give them a raise in April.
We don't.
I give them a raise on their anniversary.
no, we give raises in April depending department head request.
Well, I'm suggesting we use this matrix and give them raises on their anniversary date. And I'm suggesting also that the one officer who's been on board for the longest period of time get a larger raise than the new officers that are coming on board. That's what I'm suggesting, and that's
So-
what this matrix shows by the highlighted salaries in yellow. Those are the officers that you brought on board and when they came on board. So if you look at Officer 2 who was hired in July, he'll get a raise in August. And he'll get a nice raise. He's going from $21 to $24. That's a nice raise.
And that's where we need to be in order to recruit and retain officers.
And that's what I'm suggesting you will be. I'm suggesting that these officers that you've hired this year will get a raise on their anniversary dates. That'll be a nice boost for them. And they'll also be able to look at this matrix going forward and see where they're gonna end up. I
Well,
don't think we wanna
unfortunately,
put
we
any
can't.
of the officers on step 10. Why not? Why can't they look forward and see where they're gonna end up?
Because the matrix is only good from Board of Selectmen to Board of Selectmen. This
I'm gonna
means
suggest to
nothing
you that
next
when you
year.
bring a new chief in on board, and he has this to work with, or she has this to work with, it will be very helpful for them.
No, I
And
agree.
you're right, we can't lock anybody in, but what I'm suggesting is that we don't be giving huge raises to probationary officers in April. I just think that's a bad thing to do.
Andy, explain your point about raises in April, and then they go to their anniversary date,
We've never given raises on the anniversary date, we've always given raises
in April, okay.
But Bill has a point to pay on anniversary dates. But we also need to not cut this budget, because we don't know
It's not, I'm not cutting the budget.
So, I mean, the pay matrix is a moot point right now, because
Why?
nobody's gonna move until we get a budget passed.
Well, I'm not changing the budget, I'm not suggesting we change the budget. What I'm suggesting is that we change when we give raises to the police officers we've hired.
I think if they
And
get
if
the
you give them a
raise,
raise in April, and then give them another raise on their anniversary dates,
I'd be fine with doing the raise on their anniversary year, but then the next year it would have to be in April.
why?
So like if I got somebody that was their anniversary year, cause then I wanna put everyone back on the same playing field.
No, the way the matrix is designed is each step is on their anniversary year.
So
The
And
only
the
wrong-
matrix is
Okay.
So
adjusted,
the only adjustment here is the first time they get on the grid.
No,
Okay, I guess I'm confused on
that's
how
the
it works.
grid, like, that's, yes, sorry.
on the matrix.
So if I got hired in October,
Nobody would.
do I go on the matrix and
Yes.
they would all hire me?
You, once April comes, everybody goes on that matrix. So
Okay.
if I hire someone, or we hire someone in June, they're going to step one of the matrix.
Automatically on April,
Step one,
so that's their first year,
yes,
even though they haven't finished a year.
correct.
So if you hired somebody in October, on April, they're going into the matrix. If you hire
Yes.
somebody in January, they're going on the matrix on April. If I hire somebody in March, they're going on the matrix in
That's
April.
correct.
Yes, that's.
So if I do a year, if I do 1 month, I'm on the year step in
Yeah,
the first year.
It's a
That's-
starting point.
yeah,
that's
but
what the
that's why the
matrix is.
matrix
One
is
person
not-
at a time, though.
But we didn't hire them at that level.
No. That's why I'm suggesting that the matrix, the only fair way to administer the matrix is to bring them up on their anniversary dates to the higher salary. But if you hire somebody in March and they go on the matrix in April, they're gonna get a raise in 1 month. If you hired somebody 2 years ago and they're going on the matrix in April, they're getting screwed. I'm sorry to use that language, but that's a fact.
But that
And
person,
so there's no reward for the person who's been on board for a long time.
They're going on the matrix at a higher rate, they're not
Yes.
going in on one, they're going in at three.
No, they're going in at step one.
No,
No,
that-
not somebody
that's
that's
not
been here for 3 years, they're starting the matrix at step 3.
That's how it's designed.
I don't think that's.
And it's
the fair
based
way
on
to
how
do it.
many years of service they're here, not,
No,
Correct.
it's based on their years of, I would assume it's based on their
Years of
total
service
years
on
of
board.
service.
no, I
Yes.
would,
It's based on their police years for service.
oh, see, I think it should be based on how long
How
you're
long
here.
they
You'll never
made
hire
incredible.
anybody.
That's right. And
Well,
you'll
yes,
never get
of course
anybody
you hired.
certified.
You already hired a bunch of people.
That have no,
You've hired 5 officers already that are making $21.50 an hour, that's what you hired them for.
So if
And
you,
before the end of the year, 21, they're all gonna get a raise across the board.
so if I can interject here, we don't have anybody that's certified that wants to come over here. Why? Because we don't pay.
But
We
we
pay-
will in the future.
Can I finish, please? You've got your figures in front of you of what a breakdown on average cost. The total cost of hiring one new officer is almost $23,000 to hire one new officer. And we don't reap that benefit till after a year. So you are spending money to hire new officers that are not trained.
But you lock them in with a letter telling them that they leave before their period is over 3 years, they have to pay back the money we've invested in.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we had one leave because it was more beneficial financially to go to another agency and pay back that
But we're not
contract.
losing money on that person.
yes.
But we're
He's paying
losing
back
time.
what he owes.
you,
and
lo-
the
you lost money.
Well, you lost an experienced officer.
No, you lost time of officers training them, and
And now
their
you,
time.
So,
And
you
now you
have
can't
to fill
lock
shifts.
somebody you can't lock somebody into a position if they wanna go somewhere else. The
Right.
only protection you can have is the letter that we have that says, if you leave before 3 years are over and we've invested $23,000 in you, you have to pay the difference back to us. That's the only protection we have.
I
You
agree.
can't make people stay here. if they
But you
wanna
have to
stay
pay
here.
them the going salary.
If you
you want to,
hired somebody at $21.50, if you wanna pay somebody more money, you hire them at a higher rate.
No,
You don't hire somebody at $21.50 and say, hey, you know what? If you stay here with us for 3 or 4 months, or 5 months, or whatever it is, we're gonna give you this amount of money down the road.
and that's what the conversation is right now.
Right,
The
what I'm
conversation-
saying is that
the
we're
bill-
gonna give them a raise, but they're gonna get the raise on their anniversary date, not on April 1st.
The conversation that we were just having now was bringing somebody with 5 years of experience in at step 5. That's the conversation we were just having. I agree with your other conversation, but the conversation on the table right now, that Bob said everybody should be hired at step one does not make sense. You will never hire an experienced officer.
If you look at the grid, what we've done is we've got 2 experienced officers that we brought on board.
We're
One
talking
we brought
about in
on
the
bo-
future.
Okay,
That's the conversation right now. In the future.
okay.
That was Bob's comment, that everybody should be hired at step one. So that's what I'm addressing right now.
Okay, go ahead. I'll.
Well, that's what I just did, Jen.
I
If you
mean,
hired everybody at step one, you would never get
well, you're
an
gonna pay for
experienced person.
experience, you're gonna pay for experience, which we do when we bring people in at the sergeant level, at the lieutenant level, and when you're bringing people in, just like at the chief level, you're gonna bring somebody at that level. So if I'm hiring somebody, but I would think that there would be some type of step for how many years of service they're giving to our community.
That's what he's just saying.
No,
No, he's saying,
No.
how many times have they been, how long have they, so if
Been in
I've been
the
a
police
police
service.
officer for 10 years, I can come here and start on step 10.
That's what you're saying.
yes,
That's what he's saying.
because at another agency, you're making at least that, so we need a way to attract them.
I think it's time to put this to bed.
So,
If
so
we're gonna
if
vote,
you-
let's
if-
vote on something.
I'm agreeing with what Andy's talking to you about, and I'll illustrate that with the part-time salaries, because we have a part-time officer who's been on board
15
for
years.
15 years. He's not starting at step 1.
He's going to 10, right.
Well, where does he go next year?
He
If he starts
caps out,
He
If
caps,
he starts at
he caps
10,
out.
where does he, so what does he get, does he, that's it, he's never gonna make any more money?
whatever the pay matrix is adjusted by,
2.5.
So if it goes up by
So
2.5%,
2%.
2%.
It's designed to go
2.5%.
2%
The
every
matrix is
year.
actually 2.5% steps,
Steps.
okay? So if he starts at step 10,
Mm-hmm,
next year he'll get a 2.5% raise.
2.
So he
Well,
goes up,
It's 2.5 in the steps, so why would he only get 2?
he goes up
As I
whether
said,
the
it's
board of selectmen
2.5%
next year
is-
approve.
In the steps, it's 2% adjusted every year.
Well, it's more than that, because it's not only the steps, but you're also giving them an additional boost. So it's more like.
But he wouldn't get the step, he'd only get the escalator, cause he's already at the top step.
Right.
because he's already maxed out on his
He's
steps.
maxed out
Kind
on
of like
his
what the,
But everybody's
Teachers
missing
do.
the point. Next year, they get what this board approves.
right.
So this matrix could say he gets 10% in between steps.
Right.
They only get what this board, the 2021 Board of Selectmen approves.
But what we're trying to do, Andy, is make this as easy to follow.
I know what you're
simple
trying to do, but it doesn't work.
Why doesn't it work?
Because every year, the makeup of this board changes, and the budget is designed by the makeup of this board.
I still say it's time to put this to
So,
rest and let's move
Before you
on.
do that, there is a public comment. Liz,
So I
so can you
just-
come up to the hot
Oh,
seat with the mic?
absolutely, Absolutely. So, and you don't have the part-times on there, so.
No, I didn't pass
You have
out
the part-time, Bill?
No, I didn't, I
You
have
can
the
give them the
part-time.
part-time?
I can give them.
So-
the part-time.
And I'm gonna get Dick's egg timer, and
Yeah, that's fine.
you have 2 minutes.
Here,
Just,
here you start.
so,
This is the part-time,
the
matrix, which is a
reason-
little bit different than the full-time.
so, the part-time's a little bit
Here.
different. We
have
only have,
experience
there's, right now, there's 10 officers. We're assuming that there's gonna be 6 officers in each full-time and part-time. So that's 12 officers. Out of the 12 officers, 7 out of the 12 will be in their probationary year. There is only 2 officers that have been here for 2 years or more, only 2. And they're both part-time. The longest part-time officer, his amount now is $21.99. And if he was put on the grid in the matrix, in April 1st, his anniversary date is May. So if he was put on the 10th step, he's a 15-year police officer, so that would be step 5. By his pay, it would be step 4. By his 15 years, because it's 3 to 1 for part-time, I was told, that would be step 5. I've placed him on this matrix on step 7, and the chief has put him on step 10. So in April, he'd be at step 10, and in May, when his anniversary date is, he'd be step 11, which is another 2.5%, if you're going by the steps, or each 2.5%. And so this year, that officer, who really is making too little money, $21.99, would have an increase of 21.7%. On the grid, on the part-time grid, I didn't pull it, but I think it's 10. Bill, is it 10% for the
10.2.
officer one on the part-time grid?
10.28.
Okay, so I'm proposing the anniversary date, which is March for our longest officer. The grid can also be, the chief is proposing the grid goes up 2% every year, as well as the step goes up 2%, so that's a 4.5%. I don't care what the matrix goes up per year, that's a different select board. So you could put it 2%, you could have put 0.5, I only put 0.5 because we're telling the townspeople 3% raises, and the school gets 2.6 or something.
Yep.
So just to be fair, I mean, like, you can make it anything next year, but if you stay with the 2.5%, and if you stay with the grid, by the end of the year, the numbers for the new people are still going up. There's 2 people on the full-time that are going up over 14%. There's a long-time officer that's going up over 10%, just not 22%. And you can adjust other things during the year. I don't care if you keep all the money. I mean, what's at the bottom is the savings you would make. It's a 26%, $26,000 something savings, if you look at the bottom of both things.
Yep.
The top one that says first 13 weeks under full-time,
Yep.
those are a couple errors, and then the 4,300 is what we're saving, because that person hasn't been hired yet. So he's not even on the grid. We're assuming he's starting in February 1st, but we don't know. That'd be next week. So that's a $4,500 savings. On the next one, and I don't care if you do this or not, I'm just explaining where the numbers come from. On the bottom of the 40 weeks calculation, that's a $14,429 savings for them to go on where it makes sense on the grid. You can keep all the money, the 26, and the same thing happens with the part-time?
Yep.
It's the savings, I think it's 11,000.
11,780.
So it totals a little over 26,000. I don't care if you keep that money in the budget, but I think the matrix has to make sense. So you could keep the money in the budget, because you may have to pay benefits for the new, oh no, benefits are separate, but you have to pay extra stuff out of the budget, maybe COVID-y or something else, or maybe you know, it's also possible you could have a fund, for example, that, I thought of something that would be like the chief's community above and beyond fund, maybe $5,000, which would be a really above, you don't have to do this, it's just another suggestion, if you wanna get the guys up higher, which would be $5,000, that would be discretionary, the chief would have to ask you guys. And I'll give you an example, let's say somebody had a really bad car accident, the guy was going home, and he finished his shift, and he stopped to give aid, you know, direct traffic, have the helicopter come or whatever. That could be an above and beyond. He could, the chief could, the new chief could say, I think that guy should get,
$100.
you know, $500, or I think he should get it $1,500 or whatever. Wouldn't have to be used, just another suggestion, but it's another way, and that would be for everybody, brand new to part-time, full-time, brand new, up until the sergeant level, before the sergeant level. So that would be another way that you could have a fund that the selectman and the chief would agree on together, since nobody knows anybody in the department anymore, except for the very oldest 2 or 3. So then that was another possible thing, but one thing you couldn't do is just like divide it in 5,
And I-
make it 5,000 and give
The
1,000, because you
bottom
would
line is,
suggest,
we're
this,
not
right?
changing your
So-
budget number.
Yeah,
can
we
I
don't
just-
have to, we could, but we don't have to.
I'd like to respond to
Yeah.
Liz's suggestion, which I totally agree with, by the way. I
Okay,
think it's a great idea.
great.
I did have that in my
Yeah,
budget
you
last
told me
year,
that before,
and
yeah,
I had to
Yeah.
cut it out,
right.
because I had to reduce the budget.
But because of the 26,000 that we would be saving by this matrix,
We
right?
have extra money.
We would have extra money.
We don't have extra money.
But we would,
but
if you
wait.
go with my matrix, not her matrix.
Liz,
But,
with the savings that you have, we'll end up paying it out in recruiting costs and training another officer, but
but I
$23,000.
thought you already have one full-time and one part-time that are sort of just waiting in the wings now.
Well, that's what we're trying to do,
Right,
but there is no guarantees with that.
right, but
So-
we've already put that money in the budget.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay, and I think that's the only other, oh, I had, this is still police, but it's not the matrix,
Okay, then after,
after all, okay. And Andy, you can add that, like I said, you can change the whole matrix, 5.5% like I'm suggesting, or 4%, and then it would be a 6.5% raise
The
next
next
year if you
board
wanted
can
to.
do it.
Yeah, the next board.
so,
So my proposal is to go with the matrix that I've handed out. It's the chief's matrix, the only difference is when people go on the matrix. And I'm suggesting their anniversary date, I think that's the only fair way to do it. That's my opinion.
Oh,
Is
is
that a
that your
motion?
motion?
That's a motion,
do I have a second?
I'll second it.
thank you.
Motion and seconded.
To go to this schedule?
To go with the, yes, to go with putting them on the grid.
Once on the anniversary date.
But at what,
It's laid out right here. So, based on experience, when they got hired, officer one would go, whatever it is.
And that, can you change that in the other line too?
He's like at step 5, is it? 4?
No, he'd be going into his step 3.
It's 3, okay, sorry. 3,
So the raise would be increased
Would
on
be
their
from-
anniversary year
yes,
Right.
for their steps,
correct.
not for their annual raise, but
No,
their steps.
for their steps, and once they're
Well,
on the
the
grid
annual
for
raise
this
would
first
be
year, their
April.
annual raise would be on their anniversary.
Okay.
the only difference between the two,
Is when they go on the grid.
yes,
And one or two of them how?
and at what level?
Where, there's only 2 of those little things.
Yeah,
Because,
everybody else, I mean, everybody on here is pretty much new police officers,
no,
except for 2.
well, they're new to us.
I don't wanna mention names, but we only have 1 officer on the grid here that we've had on board for a while. And full-time. And part-time, we have 2 part-time officers who have experience that are on the grid.
But there's 2 officers sitting in this room that have 40 years' experience.
Right, and they're at a different level. They're at a different level.
But they're on the matrix.
They're also on the matrix. They're
Alright,
also on the matrix.
So there's a motion and a second
To go to the anniversary year.
Yeah.
to go to Bill's proposed pay
Anniversary.
schedule, or we can amend it to just the anniversary date. But the motion is for Bill's matrix.
The matrix is not my matrix, the matrix is the chief's matrix. The only difference is when they go on the matrix. I'm using her numbers, I haven't changed any of that.
It's 21.
I didn't change any of that. That's her numbers. All I'm suggesting is that they go on there when they,
Well, there was-
their anniversary.
There was a,
And when they go in there, what their experience level is, they're gonna go in steps based on how long they've been here.
but I'm confused about if it's the same matrix.
It's
What's the
when they
difference?
go on the matrix. When they go on the matrix.
So they would still get the same percentage raise.
By the end of the year,
By the end of the year, yeah.
except for the 2 part-timers.
Well, this one I think needs to be adjusted.
Once again, you're being arbitrary,
So
which is,
there's a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor, Bill, Ken?
No, and I wanna explain my vote.
Okay.
We have a professional chief of police who made the matrix. It's her matrix,
But it's our responsibility to set pay raise.
and I agree with her.
Okay, thank you.
Bob?
I'm kind of torn, and I want to put it out there. I think if you're doing the annual raises, they should go when the town goes to their annual raises, which is April 1st. I agree with going to the matrix, though, on the anniversary of the
There'll be
employee.
ups and downs on the matrix, but the police department.
I know, but that, put them on the
They're in separate
matrix,
categories.
I think, because they're getting that 2.5%, but if we give 2% for the town, then they should get the 2% on April 1st,
Well,
and
they're
then
getting
they would get their
4.5%
bump
on the matrix.
on,
They're getting 4.5% if they go with 2.
But again, we're getting stuck on the rate, and the rate is set by each board of selectmen.
right.
Well, this year it's 4.5%.
Correct.
That's
Well,
not what we-
plus an adjustment.
So I'm just kind of, I guess I'm kind of torn, because I'm kind of like,
It's either yes or no, sir.
I know,
Can I just say one thing?
sure.
If you lose one officer that you have currently employed here to save this $26,000, you're gonna spend it recruiting that next officer and then be behind and be short-staffed for 1 year.
Perhaps.
And then you're gonna take the chance of onboarding somebody else at a higher rate than the officers that we have currently on staff
make me
to be able to attract them.
But I'm also gonna be taking the fact that I got how many part-timers that can fill in those positions right now, too.
But
You
you can't
hope.
always
hope.
guarantee that they can fill the shifts because they also have full-time
I also know
commitments.
from helping out on some of the interviews, I have some part-timers that I would love to bring in as full-time, so.
So
There's the,
But you still have a year, because they still have to go to the academy.
yeah, well, I still gotta get them in the academy, that's how 90% of the
but
problem is
I
getting
don't
them
want you to lose sight of the whole reason why
You
I
went to the
created this
matrix.
matrix, is to stay competitive
Right.
with surrounding agencies.
And you are competitive with this.
Not until their anniversary
This is,
date.
this is your matrix.
Not,
In Exeter, they're
if they
at
all go on
2268.
April first, yes.
We're gonna be at 2454.
And then what happens
No,
on
we'll
their
get
anniversary
23.
date?
Well, no,
So
no.
we're done with discussion.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Bob, you either need to vote or,
I'm gonna say yes right now, because
No,
that's where
say
I'm at
yes.
right now.
Thank you.
and I'm a nay.
3-2.
So, 3-2, the matrix will start in, on their anniversary date?
Anniversary date.
The only thing I can say, chief, is bring it back in April and you could have a different board.
I do not want to reopen the budget and cut this out, though.
No,
I wanna leave it as part of the budget.
right, yeah.
So far, there hasn't been a motion to open the
Okay,
budget.
No.
I just wanna make sure
No.
that that's my position, is I do not want to
No.
We're not opening.
take out $26,000.
No,
of
no,
this budget.
no, we're not
We
doing
didn't
that.
do anything.
Alright,
Our budget matches.
alright,
this.
we're moving on.
Moving on.
Can I just ask one question?
Sure,
What does this do?
right to the seat.
What does this do to Karen's bookkeeping of all this matter?
It's a mess.
I know.
Well, it's just 6 people, and knowing that I got 6
12
different,
people.
well, 12 people, anniversary years. When their anniversaries
So Karen's
come up.
gotta keep track of all the anniversary dates and
I
when
have
the
it right
raises
here,
are
she
coming
can
in?
look at this piece of
Yeah, I
paper and
know.
it's right there
Well, they
written.
have it, it's automatically, it's on
It's
there.
all-
We
It's on there.
gave
Yeah.
everybody a right to let Carol speak and then you can
Oh.
answer her
That's okay,
objections.
it's okay, I was just concerned that, you know, I mean, she has enough to do.
Well, we have fortunately 2 assistants.
Two
now, right?
assistants.
Okay,
It's job security.
yeah.
You asked, we got.
Alright,
You have.
All right.
let's go to the notes.
Want to do the chief's pay now?
And Keith, stop laughing. Keith said he was joining Zoom because it's better than the comedy night. He pops popcorn and
Oh,
watches
really?
the
Oh.
selectmen's meeting.
He says he does like some of my comments.
Yep.
I guess so.
Alright, so we need to increase the 2020 EMD budget by $10,877.96 to cover COVID expenses. Where do we get that money?
That's a grant money,
It
right?
was grant money.
Go
So
for
I
it.
have paid,
That's it?
yeah, I paid one last 2020 invoice. That was our computers through Block 5.
So can we do that? Just increase the budget on
Yes.
something that was voted on by the town?
That's how you, so you vote the budget up and then you put the grant revenue someplace else. So my question is this is how much the bill was? Do you wanna raise it by that much? Or do you only wanna raise it by the 5,700 that I need to not have the bottom line of that budget be negative?
What's the advantage of going up to 10,008?
That's, then you would realize what your true and actual COVID expenses were for that year.
So why don't we do that?
So is that a motion?
Yes.
So,
The motion on the
It's grant
floor
money.
is to increase the EMD budget by $10,877.96 for the 2020 year.
but it's an in and out.
It's an in and
Yes,
out.
it's an in.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor of Bill?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Phyllis?
Aye.
Alright. We need to make decisions for 2021 regional associations?
So in your packet is the decisions that Becky Dunn and the Regional Association Committee has presented. They've reviewed all of the applications received for the regional associations, and this is their recommendation on how to expend the funds.
So, we allocated 17,500, they're gonna divide it by 9 organizations. Austin House, CASA, the Community Children's Fund, Haven, Richie McFarland, Rockham County Community Action, Rockham Nutrition, Seacoast Mental Health, and I believe Task is a transportation town?
Yes.
And One Sky Waypoint, did they apply also or no?
Yes, so Friends, RSVP, One Sky and Waypoint have all applied, and they were denied funding for this year.
And one of the things that I know, the reason for the regional associations, and one of the things that we found out when we did the regional association exploratory, was a lot of communities don't fund the same organizations every year after year after year. They say, well, this year we paid these people, next year we're gonna pay these people. So that way they're balancing the load versus, because a lot of times they're applying to the same communities all over the place,
Which is why we got to this.
which is why we did the
We have
regional
a committee and
association.
they're reviewing requests and stuff, so yeah, I'm happy with that.
So it's only for 17,490?
Yes, you're gonna save $10.
$10.
I'll make a motion that we accept this.
I'll
Second.
So I have a motion by Ken, second by Bill.
I can do it.
All in favor, Bill?
Aye.
Ken? Bob,
Aye.
Philip,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion carries. Keith, your answer is, it won't change, we just won't let her spend it. Keith had a question of how is it gonna affect the budget line,
Not at all.
so it's gonna be in there, we're just not gonna expend it on police salaries. We're probably gonna have to.
Unless in April you do,
Well, we're gonna have to, eventually, yeah, that's,
right?
business occupancy permits.
This was a recommendation
From the plan.
from the planning board. Currently, we have several businesses that are not following the rules. So the planning board is suggesting that we establish a set of rules where they have to, the business has to come in and register with the town and accomplish all of the boxes on the registration form. Currently, we have one employer, our owner, property owner, that has 23 different businesses, and none of them were on the original site plan.
So,
How did that happen?
That's a great question. It just fell through the cracks. This goes back 10 or
Years, right? This goes back many.
probably 20 years.
Did it just snowball?
So it just
Yeah.
it just evolved and people never followed
That's
on
right,
it.
that's right.
so
And-
is this something that needs to be a warrant article to establish? Like
No.
a planning board regulation,
No.
or?
No, it'd just be a policy if the
Of
board
the
wants to
select board.
review it further.
This was a recommendation by the town planner in the communities that he works in, and that's where we.
That's
They
an
charge a
example
fee?
of what Kingston does.
Yes, there is a fee.
Yeah, see,
I
I don't
think you
agree
could
with
pare
having
that
a
down
fee.
and
I'm
have the
sorry?
building inspector
I don't agree
and
with that.
the
You
fire
don't?
inspector
No.
review.
I think that they should register, but I don't think they should have to pay
I
a
don't think
fee.
they should have to pay if they're, I think you grandfather those that are.
I
they
think,
should have
no,
to
I don't
register,
think they
but
should have to pay. There's enough,
So every time they change their business,
Every time the site plan changes, they have to come in to the planning board who controls it, yes.
This is what Kingston does.
Yes.
So,
I don't agree.
Guys, if you wanna have a discussion, can you go out in the hall, please?
so who's gonna pay for all these inspectors?
The employer, the business owner, he comes in and makes,
That's because that's what the fee is.
yeah.
So it basically offset Kip and Jason Grant's time for going out and making sure that they're compliant.
And the professional electrician. that-
I don't,
that's
I
what
don't
you-
think you should do that to
Okay.
existing businesses.
Oh, no, we're talking about new people that come in. It affects no one that's already here with a
You're
site
gonna
plan.
grandfather them.
They have no choice.
And how much are you gonna charge?
Well, that's a question, $50, $100?
See, I don't think you should,
Okay,
um,
listen, I'm
You
not
want
gonna argue
the-
the point, I'm just
you
making a
want-
suggestion.
you want
I'm just trying
businesses to
understand
come
what
to
it is.
town and you're
I'm like
gonna-
Phyllis,
I'm
I'm not
not-
sure we wanna charge businesses when we're trying to encourage businesses to come to
right,
town.
I don't agree with that at all.
And I'm not sure that what we're getting for the, if we're gonna charge people to register their business, what we're getting by charging them, what are we getting back in terms of what's our benefit?
well, I think if it,
I think we talked one time about, having the businesses come in and, so we had a list of the businesses, and that never went anywhere.
No, it didn't, and this would require everybody to, once they bring a site plan into the planning board, the next step, when they apply for a building permit or an activity permit to do something to the business, they have to come in, register, pay a fee, it pays for the
See, I'm
electrician.
not-
Don't they have to do that when they come before the planning board?
No.
Anyways, to say what
for that.
they don't get approval from the planning board as to what they're proposing to put in place?
Oh, no, yes, but there's an
So what are we-
inspection
What are
process.
we getting on this? That's what I'm
Okay,
trying to understand.
I'm done.
No,
This
just,
is-
and
this
just,
is-
I'm not saying one way or the other.
I
just
think
trying to
this is
understand.
for any re-inspection that they might have to have, because maybe they changed the intent of the plan.
If they change the intent,
So if I have like the brew,
okay,
and let's say the brew goes out of business and somebody else comes back in there with a business and they wanna put back tossing sauce,
no,
No.
there's no difference then, because it's a
so it's still a
restaurant.
restaurant.
Right.
So as long as it stays the same,
There's
there's
no
no
change.
fee.
Right,
But if I decide I'm gonna put in an automobile shop,
totally different.
now I have to change my plans, which means I have to have different inspections, different, that's what you're paying.
Well,
But wouldn't that be under a site plan review?
Yeah, don't you have to do that
I-
anyways?
Yes,
I think
now
the
they're
town has
charging
enough
for it.
permits without
But
charging.
So I think the planning board should charge for a site plan review.
They do,
They do.
they do.
Then we don't need this.
Okay,
Well, I think this is nice, like, when you have Gigante Park, and you have continuous automobile repair shops coming in and out that are approved on the site plan, but maybe each new tenant that's coming in that has an automobile shop, maybe the next one adds an inspection station, or adds something that doesn't quite get to the level of a site plan review or a site plan amendment, but that would be a method for us to be able to track who's in there, who's the tenant, what are they doing, and make sure that their site plan can stay current, so we stay on top of it before it gets too far down the road.
currently, we have one business on 125.
Yeah.
It used to be where the hardwoods used to be, and they had those barns for
Wood storage.
wood.
Right.
Now we have people in there doing welding. We have, now, no electrical permits were ever asked for. We have 1 or 2 bathrooms and 23 different businesses.
But I don't think this is gonna cure that.
But wasn't that, isn't that a violation of the site plan that was originally approved?
That's what we're working on. Yes.
Yeah, but
the
I
Why do
don't
we
think
need
you
this
need a
then
per-
if-
I don't
if
think you
they're
need another
violating
I,
the site
well,
plan?
first of all, obviously, I'm not doing a good job, so
I don't
I'm
understand,
done.
I'm confused, so
So
maybe
we're
not
we need to
doing this.
revisit this item.
I think it's already in place, why do we need something different?
Well, it's not already in place. The site plan is in place, but when they make changes to the
There's
site
no fee
plan
structure.
that has not been reported to any official, that's when we run into fire violations. In fact, this particular business, they have a fire pond there, and they have mattresses floating.
I guarantee you that this particular business is a problem, 100%. But I don't think they would've come in and filed
I don't think so either.
a permit either.
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you is, if we get them when they first start,
You do with a site plan.
okay.
When you do the
That's
site
I didn't realize we had so many experts on
I
this
think
board.
that's where we're losing you, Ken.
No, you're not losing me, you're not paying attention.
No, that's where you lost us.
I guess.
It's doing this to me right now, where I'm like, okay.
I don't care.
Maybe,
I guess
Tell the
get,
planning board we're not, well,
get clarification of what they're looking for.
Yeah, maybe
Well, listen,
we-
I spend 2 Thursdays a month at these meetings, and I thought we had it pretty well down pat, but I'm kind of surprised at myself.
we'll get it changed when the next board comes in, so you don't have to go.
Well,
alright, that died a bad death.
Sorry.
Updated quote for the chimney repair.
Which I thought we already approved, so what do we need to?
And you don't need to talk about
Going
the,
up?
Well, you
No,
wanted
Chimney
to
is
have
done, we
a,
already.
you wanted to
done.
have,
The
you
chimney
wanted
at
to
the
have.
One
a-
person at a time, please.
the chimney at the library is done. They had Jackson come out to look at the foundation,
Mhm.
and they need to remove drywall and some bookshelves before that, before Jackson can give them a proper quote. Alternatively, this past in December, Kip was over there and he thinks that, he suggested that the highway department take a look at the drainage and the grade of the slope. He thinks the water's flowing into the building and that should be looked at prior to pulling the drywall off.
Is the drywall wet and damaged though? I thought that was the issue.
I think it was wet, I think it's dried out now, so I think eventually it will still need to be done. I think Kip would like to see if improving the grade and the drainage helps solve the problem, because if the water's still continuing to flow in the building, sealing that crack, it's gonna find its way in someplace else, so,
But we also wanna get rid of any moldy sheetrock.
right.
Yeah, I don't wanna
Maybe
leave it
couple
there and
rows.
then have it spread and then I got issues because we didn't cut it out.
So Kip said he could take care of that,
So we're just not expending any more money at this point.
correct.
Yep.
I have a quote additionally for some mason work at the highway shed for $900 to repoint the chimney, a stainless steel cap, and to repair around the chimney to make it watertight. I guess there was some water flowing in through there as well.
We'll give it to the estimate god
That one's a little better than that.
on the other side of the table.
This one, they got a little smarter on
It's
it?
the same company, but it's a little bit better.
Couldn't we solve that problem by building a new building up here? Just saying.
All I gotta say is, I would love to see them actually break it out the way they're supposed to by labor and materials. That's typically how you do a budget. So like, for me to write down, repoint one stainless steel cap on chimney, repair roof around chimney and make water tight. Cool. What are you doing? How much time are you putting in and what's the cost for me for that steel cap?
Don't they have an estimate of expense?
No, that's $900.
That's it?
One lump, here you go, it's $900, but I wanna know if I'm putting up a
Well, I can tell you,
$30,
They're gonna have 5 guys out there, they're gonna do it in an hour, they're gonna use all the material necessary to fix whatever it is they're gonna fix. That's as good an estimate as you got in your
hi,
head.
I got a $35 stainless steel cap,
There you go.
and I'm gonna put an hour and a half worth of labor into it,
Get 800
and how much am I
So
paying
when
them
we
an
get
hour?
time materials and Bob looks at it and gives me the okay for up to 900, is that okay?
I would be fine with that, but I want labor, time, and materials.
Is that a
Especially-
motion?
Motion is, I want to see
Second.
labor and materials up to $900, I would be
Out
fine
of the
with that.
capital reserve, building maintenance.
Motion by Bob, second by Bill. Bill,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Phyllis,
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
No, it's in my head. It's burned into my memory.
Can I sign this?
2120.
We already voted on that.
The document going around is the police policy we voted to approve. 2122 tax map.
That's our mapping update with CAI Technologies.
Motion to sign the contract with CIA Technologies.
Motion.
CAI Technologies. Motion by Bob,
Second.
second by Ken. All in favor? Bill?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Phyllis?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Can I ask a question about the policy we're about to sign and approve? This just means if the officers want outside employment, they have to go through you, and you review what their request is and then say yea or nay.
Well, was it in that packet?
Okay, I just wanna make sure that I was signing the right thing.
Yes.
Okay,
That,
so is this the flood thing or no?
no, that's for the company
The
we use
mapping
to
that
maintain
we just
the
approved.
online
Oh,
tax
the
maps.
Okay, yeah. We have to pay them?
Yeah, they don't do it for free.
They don't? Well, I hope they maybe do something for free, because we're such a nice community.
They might bill it out by time and labor though.
You could do that.
If they were smart, they would, but they don't.
Or else they won't get paid.
No, actually, if they're smart, they just submit a one lump sum and everyone goes, oh yeah, it looks great.
It's level
It's not
funded,
gonna
does that
do it.
make you
We're not
happy?
doing that as much.
It is if it comes to my desk.
Carol, can you ask Mrs. Freer if she had another public comment before we go into non-public session?
Well, I
Oh,
have-
you're not
I have-
done?
Do you want
We're
to do
not
this in
done.
public or non-public?
Non-public.
She has something, Phyllis has something for public.
Yeah, I just trying to get, I don't know how long she's gonna be out there.
Before you go in
I think she's
non-public,
wordy, but
I think we need to talk about when town meeting's gonna be.
I
Yeah,
think
That was
that's
my next
important.
question.
Huh?
I'm just trying to get things together, Phyllis.
Okay, just checking.
It could take a while to get Mrs. Freer in here.
No, she's pretty.
Where am I gonna sign?
Alright,
You could sign
Town
right
meeting.
on anything or right next to me.
cause I know she wants to hear about town meeting.
She does.
Liz,
Town meeting. Go ahead.
Tell
Oh,
us about town meeting.
so the moderators had a Zoom call on Monday.
Was our moderator there?
Our moderator was absent, but our school moderator, he had an excused absence, but our school moderator was present. And it sounds like the consensus of the co-op boards is to continue with town meeting, or that ballot vote on March 9th.
In my talking with Dick Chamberlain last night, he said he's okay with this. The only town that doesn't seem to be okay with it, I think, is Exeter.
Is it okay with, I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Town
Having,
meeting on March the 9th?
Not town meeting,
No, no, no.
Ballot voting
elections,
on the 9th.
Town elections.
Oh,
Town.
yeah.
yeah, I don't think we should change ballot voting, I don't think that
No,
was.
that's
No,
not,
no,
we
no,
already
no,
voted
that's-
to do that on
Discuss
none.
and say we had enough room at the rec center to
Yes.
do it anyways.
Right.
I mean, if we handled the police, the presidential election, we should be able to handle local
Yep.
elections.
Right.
So you can postpone the business section, the town meeting portion, to whichever date you choose,
Okay.
but you have to set the date, it has to be a specific date. If you choose to do it outside, there's criteria in which you have to meet. You have to be able to provide audio visual speakers, a sound system, all of those.
So the Exeter High School or the SAU, or whoever's in charge over there, didn't they offer their facility to us the week
Yes.
after that?
Have they offered it to us?
Before.
They offered it on the 4th, which we're not able to do because you can't hold the business session prior to the voting
Is that
session.
available?
So,
And Melissa was gonna check.
Melissa's here, so let me,
Oh, okay, sorry.
Melissa, can you unmute and,
Hi, Andy.
is it warmer at your house than it is here last night?
Much warmer, yes.
Should've been
So
in
is
Sanborn.
the high school available to us after the 9th?
The only date that I checked on so far was the Monday night before the 8th, which they are able to give to us. I'm sure we can get it for you after that, if you would like to do the town meeting there. I don't think that should be a problem at all. Do we know why we can't do the town meeting the 8th? Is that an RSA?
It can't be before elections.
Okay.
How about the
Um,
13th, Saturday?
You just tell me when you want it, and I'll talk to Chris and Rusty, and I can try and reserve it for you.
So can you give us a schedule of time available after the 9th?
Yes.
And then we can pick a date from that. I think that would be the easiest.
Okay.
And then any cost associated, including what we think would be for transportation.
Can you ask her if the Saturdays they're open, the school?
The other thing we need to find out is how does, and I talked to the chief about this yesterday, is how's our police department? If it's in Exeter, how would they?
We would probably have to contract
With the,
with Exeter if we wanted police coverage. Or the chief would have to ask for permission to,
Come 6 miles over.
yeah. But they have technically, unless mutual aid's invoked, they have no jurisdiction to, unless it was like a detail that they contracted an officer for the day, but. So, Melissa, the question is the Saturday after, which would be the 13th, which is normally when we would have town meeting, would be a preferable date. But
Okay.
if we can get a list of dates and costs, and that would be great.
Okay.
And-
So Andy, I heard what you said about Saturday the 13th. Is that your preference, that it only be a Saturday, assuming, let's say that day is not available?
No, that's why I asked for a list of dates, that way we can make a decision as a board. So if
Okay.
there's, like, the only Saturday is 5 weeks, do we really wanna hold out for that, or do we wanna pick another date?
Okay.
Everybody in agreement with that?
And we can't do it,
You guys,
we can't do it when the
Our
school
plan-
boards, we can't do it when the schools doing theirs at the same time?
The
No.
school's gonna do it before town meeting, and we can't do that.
So the statute says that your town meeting has to be the second Tuesday in March, so you can't hold the business session prior to that second
Oh.
Tuesday in March.
And
But the school can go
Why,
before?
why can the school go ahead
They
then?
don't have that same statutory requirement, because I asked that question, I said the school district meeting seems very similar to the business portion of the town, but there's not a separate statute that specifies for school
okay.
the
district meetings.
town meeting is a continuation of voting day,
Right,
so you
right.
can't continue something that hasn't started yet,
Oh, okay,
if that makes sense.
that makes sense, that makes a lot of sense.
Melissa, I'm sorry, did you have another question?
no, I'm good.
Okay. Any questions for Melissa before we let?
thank you.
Can you tell Melissa that there's 6 people running for the school board and that she needs to find someone to run for treasurer, because nobody's signed up yet?
She hears you and is laughing.
She's
Treasurer
searching right now for somebody to join us.
If you find a treasurer, we need one too, so maybe we can
We
share,
can do both.
We can have a twofer.
I think the one for the school is easier than the town.
probably.
I
think
asked
they,
Jack if he'd be interested
Although-
in here, and he said no.
We pay more though.
they pay.
We pay more, yeah.
Alright, Bob, do you have anything?
No,
Nope.
Mrs. Faria, did you have something else you wanted to ask?
Very little, I had 2 quick things.
Assume the red chair.
Quick, make them
You
quick.
know I'm not loud enough, baby.
Band-Aid chair.
I wanted to know if we had a site for the station, or that still hasn't been determined. I'm sort of,
The police
the
station?
police station, I'm sort of.
Behind
confused
the fire department is where they.
I thought it was
do-
by the BRC, in front of the BRC on that hill.
It's in,
Well, that's behind the
The
fire
same-
Is
station.
that
Behind the
behind
fire
It's on the other side.
we own that whole section.
I don't wanna
It's on the left
put
side.
money away if we don't even know where it is. and-
Yeah,
that's where
So
it's
we
gonna
have
go.
a site?
Yeah, that was what was chosen by Norwich University and
Oh,
Keene.
good, so the whole big packet we have is actually for that site, it's not for
Yeah,
some other
yeah.
things we
Yeah,
were
no,
considering.
no,
Okay,
they
great.
actually came up with preliminary designs, many different designs that we saw. So there's a
Okay.
lot of stuff that they came up with.
And is it possible maybe for the future to get the years of service of our police people, you know, our officers from where they're coming, so we have some idea of how much experience they have. It would be helpful.
Well, we know that when we were interviewing and.
Well, you guys do, but we don't. Like for the matrix
can have
and
a
stuff.
Oh,
Where to
yeah.
put
Chat
them.
with them.
We can,
Okay.
But I think when,
I appreciate you showing up for Chief and Coffee and Coffee and Chief.
Yeah, I was.
And you could ask those
I was the
questions
lone
then.
person. But I was the lone person.
We
I
will
tried
on
to
the
do my
next,
best.
the next conference.
But the
we
one
have.
other thing I wanted to make sure, and I'm sure you already know this now, is that the addition to the matrix, the upping of the matrix, it's 2.5
Matrix is
between
done.
steps.
Done.
Matrix is
Right.
done.
Right, no, but I'm just
We're
saying-
not talking about the
done,
matrix.
Done,
Okay.
done.
Goodbye.
Okay,
Right.
all right, so that's it, thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Carol,
Nope, I'm good.
Hey Carol, I hear you want to be
Alright.
the treasurer.
We're going
No,
now.
thank
anybody on Zoom
I tried to
have
get
a
it run
public
for
comment? Otherwise, we're going into non-public to talk about
Personnel.
personnel and employment and all kinds of good stuff like that.
Want to make a motion?
Hold on, I'm waiting. Going once? Any of my Zoom participants going twice?
I just wanted to talk about the Matrix.
Good night.
I put you back on permanent mute, Keith.
Comedian, what are you, a comedian?
I make a, I'm,
Andy, tell them the good news is we don't have to open it again.
I make
No
a,
reduction.
I make a motion to go to chapter 91A, 3, II, A, B, C, D, E, and I for
Lock me out.
personnel.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Second?
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry, we gotta do a roll call vote, Bill just walked away.
Thank you.
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so 4-0. Hold on, and we're still live, so
Are we coming back to non-public?
we are not coming back, and we are still live, so we're